Good afternoon and welcome to the 30th episode of Genomics Gupshup. Genomics Gupshup is where we invite experts in the field of genomics and people who are in the vicinity of genomics, patients, and other people who help us in being able to understand and be able to understand the nuances of genomics and to be able to then say, what can we do about it as a society? Today, we are delighted. I think we have a very, very special person today, Dhanya Ravi, who is, in my view, a poet, a writer, but more importantly, I think she's been a disability evangelist and a champion for many of us. And I think I started just thinking that I would just view a little bit about her. I ended up spending quite a large amount of time trying to understand, and she just brings in so much positivity that I must say I was completely touched. And I think thank you so much for accepting, Dhanya, our invitation to come on Genomics Gupshup.
Thank you so much. I think it's a great pleasure as well. And I was so moved, like an entity or maybe a platform working for this particular, which is like very rare and beautiful. I was very moved with a couple of the conversations that I heard through on YouTube channel, and yeah, bingo to the entire team, because as I said, for me, there's no larger community of people who are like core interested to actually work on genetics, healthcare, and all of that. And like it's very nice to see there is a small interested group who are into this, and probably from here we start up to a larger level. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think all of us need to bring in that awareness and education in the community in general. So Dhanya, as we begin, I just wanted to understand, how did you, what was your journey like, and when were you, I know that you were diagnosed with osteoporosis imperfecta, but how was that journey? And I know that there are many people who probably don't understand what this was about, but maybe if you can help us understand a little bit about your journey, I think that would be great for our viewers.
Yeah, sure. So osteogenesis imperfecta, it's again a genetic disorder, and it is in the lack of type 1 collagen, a deficiency of type 1 collagen in my body. And the character of osteogenesis imperfecta, OI, is that mostly until teenage, bones are very brittle and the fractures are really high. And after teenage, the frequency reduces. And in my case, and there are about 7 to 12 types of OI, and it's on the mild and severity, each stage, each type of it, just like diabetes, how it would say. And I am born with type 3, and my movement, I'm a wheelchair user, but I kind of move my manual wheelchair on my own because it's customized in my own level of height and structure. And during my times of birth, the awareness about OI is never there. And although I was evolving in a city-based location, it was been very difficult for anyone to really understand what they need to do, starting from my parents to the doctors. Healthcare people were not really supportive in those times of my birth where it actually need proper care. And so maybe this has also led me into a lot of deformities in my bones, because they were not sure how surgeries would work out in me. So yeah, it's been almost 30 years me being in love with my condition.
Yeah, I think, I couldn't make out how old you are from this thing, but I think 30 years ago, I think Human Genome Project wasn't completed either, right? I mean, that was the other thing. And of course, there were no genetic tests available at that time. But I'm assuming that the doctor then diagnosed the problem based on symptomatically probably, right? At that time, or was there a genetic?
Actually, there are my parents have been so far. My father has been terribly in interest of giving me the best care available in the healthcare sector, but I still feel there was a gap even otherwise. Like there could be some doctor who really knows about it, but maybe it's not communicated well to my parents, or maybe the lack of not knowing. There's a mix of everything, because when I look back, like when I really now when I look back with the doctors on those centuries, when I have a conversation with the same doctor who had once saw me as a child, and I could see that they were also in a space where they know what to do, how to do, and all, but somewhere they didn't really want to be there because of the technology of not being supportive, or maybe they don't have hands-on experience. It's just hands learning. It was they learned on the books and all of that. So in that sense, it was very tricky, I would say, because I could also see some of the doctors who actually knew and never took the risk factor in terms of making my parents understand, okay, this is what it is and this has to be done and all of that. But yeah, largely, yeah, it was not completely available or aware on those times, but a certain um, proportion of people, doctors really knew what to do, but somewhere the kind of access was not being provided properly, I would say.
And there are no communities for this that were there at that time, or were there communities for your parents to reach out and talk to them?
No, 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 no. I think it's only through me now they really started to see the community. Until then, no, it was not there, and there was no Google access or anything. Whatever doctor says, that's the only thing that they were able to listen, and there is nothing beyond that. And as I know, as you already know, it is a rare disease. It's not like commonly seen with everyone, or maybe one or two people they really met, and it was on a different type of OI, and it wasn't the same, so we can't compare again how to deal with it. So it's more of an experimental times, I would say, and a learning space also. Yeah, but things have evolved. Like I could still see that if there was like a proper healthcare available, or maybe the doctors have been more compassionate in providing the best of treatment, I think a lot of deformities in my body could have been avoided, because in the family I was like the first child with a disability. Even my parents had their emotional challenges and how to cope with it. So it has been a little different there as in my childhood.
And I'm assuming at that point, genetic counseling was also not, I mean, not as counseling as a profession. I think wasn't also that well developed, because I remember back, I think one of our first VPs of genetic counseling, Pooja Ramchandran, I think she was one of the earlier ones who came in to set this up. Then we have Dr. Annie Hassan. But a lot of these have happened over the last few years. I don't think we had that many genetic counselors as well. And also, I think some conditions, I think we can look at, before people plan to have a baby or prenatal wise. I think some technology wise also we have probably have had challenges, right? But even then, I think maybe if physicians are more aware of these conditions, which I think rare conditions, do you think rare conditions are really rare? They're not, right? I mean, but maybe you can help people understand how that rare diseases are not really that rare when you look at it from a macroscopic level.
Correct, absolutely.
So, I think today, I think we are, when we take all the rare diseases together, there are millions of people who suffer from rare diseases. But I think within that, I think if we had communities, I think it becomes easier for people to understand, not just, about the disease, but also emotionally, how do you create that community around that? So,
True.
so one, I mean, I guess one of your biggest, differences in terms of like, was that you had to be homeschooled, right? And so nowadays, I think I know a lot of parents do homeschool children, but was it easy to be homeschooled? Can you tell us about your experience? Was it different from, what you can consider as a traditional way of learning? Although I think over the next few years, we'll see a change in education anyway. But what did you feel growing up?
So for me, yes, like you said, now we have been seeing so frequently about homeschooling. But the challenge where I see is that now we do have some set of information apart from the academic books available. So even if a person or a child is doing homeschooling, there's a lot of university level of learning that comes through the technology apart from the academic books as well. So it's more of an equivalent of a mainstream education to some extent I have felt. And there's the learning space also be environment is different for a child who goes to the school and homeschooling as well. So during in my times, my way of homeschooling was uh, not completely university level, but sort of university level, I would say, because the kind of books what I kind of learned till my 10th grade was proper academic books shared by my friend, and teacher comes home and teach me. So when I look back, like how the education has supported me, yes, it has drastically supported me, but I would still see the lack of not being able to have proper access to school. There is a way of learning in books, academics that I've kind of went through, and my teacher was so supportive, and I really owe to her a lot because today, if I'm talking, it's because of her mentoringship. So that no doubt that is a great way of learning that I felt, but somewhere I really also like when I'm working on a workplace, and I still feel if I had like a very strong foundation of education, my way of workplace and would have been a little more easy, I felt. And I come from a very traditional family from Kerala. And coming from here, like, first of all, girls need basic education, and a person with disability. Firstly, my parents were never against with my education, but they were not knowing the importance of education for a woman or a girl with disability. So they were like self-help books would be fine, and they no one really like kind of looked out how my journey has to be as I grow up. Rather, it was a present thing that they kind of offered to me, and they were also unsure how education would support me, would I learn, and all that. So um, I really don't regret of not being able to go to a mainstream schooling because my teacher has been so nice where I really learned a lot from her beyond the academic books. And I would say that it has been very equivalent to the 10 to 12 teachers with the one teacher who had been with me for 10 years. So in that sense, yes. But like I said, the kind of supporting system that what we could get now in the homeschooling level was not applied to me on my earliest childhood days. So the lack of those access is always a lack, which I kind of pursue it now at this age to stay up on the track, I would say. So homeschooling is never a bad thing. It is definitely a right choice based on the kind of environment that we can provide to the child. But again, it depends upon how quality education are we providing. So that matters.
So one of the big differences that when you look at the US or any of the developed countries, I think the physical infrastructure for people with any form of disabilities is way higher, right? I mean, and do you think that there is a need for changing that infrastructure within the country in terms of how do we make them much more friendlier for people to be able to obviously very obviously you have I know that your vehicle you call it BMW, right? But I'm saying it's still, can you take it around everywhere, right? I mean, the question is, do you find that there are enough workplaces or enough places there where you can easily actually be, going there without feeling the need for having anyone else coming in? Is there a need for one, making infrastructure better, and two, do you think that can we bring in a little bit more inclusivity in organizations? And how do you think people or companies or organizations can achieve that, given that a lot of it is already built up?
infrastructure development is very essential, undoubtedly, because I would say that when being in India, I would say that we still stick with Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Mumbai. So beyond that, other states are like never seen or hardly seen. I would say, but still we're just stuck with these four places in terms of infrastructure development. But yeah, despite of the same, even these states require a lot of accessible and universal design, I would say, because it's not just my BMW that needs to be worked on the societal platform. There is all set of disability that needs to be accessed for everyone. So in that sense, there is a lot that has to happen, and I would really say that barrier in transportation is one of the main reasons of persons with disability of not being employed, or maybe even home schooling. Because it's not that a child doesn't love to go to a school or a office. No, it is about the infrastructure challenges that actually stops them. Like a parent has to go, or maybe it's the schooling, or maybe the workplace is not nearby the residence, and if at all it is so, maybe the commute becomes hard, and safety issues. A lot of it is still involved. I still find it so scared to step out in my residential colony because of so many reasons, precisely the safety aspect. So, in that sense, yes, there is a lot that has to be worked, I would say. But yes, there are changes that has been put in our country, like now places like Bangalore and Mumbai, Goa, where we do have some accessible vehicles that's there, that's running, that's operating. But again, the cost matters. I feel for a person with disability, actually the expenses are really more than any able persons without disability. So keeping this charge or the finance aspect, still when it comes to any travel, again they are the ones who end up paying more in terms of maybe going to a few kilometers away. They end up charging a lot. So I think there is a lot that has to be worked on a right sense. Now maybe in some cities we have certain things, but it's still not being puzzled well. I would say it's still shattered. So in that sense, yeah, there is a lot in the infrastructure area that has to be worked out. I think having more persons with disability on the board would also make it easy for the leaders to make the right choices in the right time, because they would have some suggestions from the user perspective as well. And in the workplace, I'm so happy that many MNCs these days do come up with some CSR, diversity and inclusion aspect, but still there are so many, and there are many states in India that still needs to be worked a lot. Like they still like wonder if it's basically a fear that the company leaders own. I feel like how do a person with disability come to the office? Can they work well? Can they communicate well? How do we kind of deal with if any emergency happens? So there's a lot of fear factor that's involved, and maybe even if there is a fund that has been allotted for all these changes, can the productivity be just like another person in the team? So these are the fear factors that comes around. I have sensed it, but I still feel when I really look at companies which comes from a very DNI strong team, they are still making a lot of changes. And actually, I've seen so many people with disability living a dignified life because of such decisions. So, and they are the real examples who have actually proven to us like they can still work like any other employee in the team. And it's not something hard, but it is about working with the right choices, and the kind of like decision making that happens on a right way.
And they often say, right, like if you have one part of your, something where maybe you can't do, then it's more likely that you have heightened, senses in the others. And so there is a different sense of, value that people can bring in. But I think people have to recognize that and then use that as part of the organization, that it is not just something nice to do, but it's something that you will actually gain something out of also, right? Because I think that perspective or that approach is different from what your rest of the people are bringing in. So, I wanted to move on to something that really caught my attention. You've been a very positive person, and it's not easy to, even people who don't have, brittlebone disease or anything else, can tend to be, having, not feeling good or finding their purpose in life or otherwise. How did you find, was there something in your childhood? Were there people, or there something that kept you going, and what keeps you going even today? Maybe you can help us understand, how do you find the positive things in the little pleasures, or I don't know where, for me it is small things. I don't know what it is for you in terms of where you find your, the energy that you radiate so well.
I still go through a lot of blue days, I would say. It's not that I'm a very positive person always, but generally, yes, I'm a happy person. But not that I really don't go through any sad moments or anything. I do have that a lot. And for me, I feel it's not about finding purpose. For me, it's about doing the things that we're really good at. And this is not something that I really found in one point in time. It's a journey itself that took me here. As a girl, maybe the kind of questions that I grew up with, and where it actually took me. And when I see the kind of, I do a lot of self reflections within me, and I really try to understand where I'm really good at, or where my passion really lies, and my strength. And so this has actually helped me to. I think it's a good way in a way, I would say, because if we as a person doesn't find our strength, or maybe what we are really good at, I think wherever we go, we are even messing the other person's journey. So it's ideally better to understand ourselves and know our strength and weakness and working on it. So this actually actually takes us more productive and meaningful, I would say. I am with you on this, that for me the smallest thing matters, and that gives me the immense joy than anything really big, really small things, meeting a friend, having a cup of favorite coffee, or listening to a music that I really like, maybe something being with a close to nature. So this brings me a lot of joy, undoubtedly. And uh, maybe the more of me was morely recognized within myself at the age of 10, 12, 25, 26. So these are like the ages where I really understood a better version of mine.
And have there been any special moments where someone special told you something that maybe reinforced some of the strengths that you had? I know you met President Kalam and others as well. How do you think, does that influence anything in terms of, some of the positive reinforcements? Or
So I feel every person that we meet, right, really, there is a lot of learnings we actually learn from them, whether it be from the president, or maybe a parent, or maybe the child at home. I feel there is a lot that we learn from each person. So in that sense, for me, each relationship gives me a lot of learning, and it also gives me a lot of reflection. So it's not someone in particular, but the overall me is always made with the choices of what others make on my life, I would say. Especially persons with disability are little vulnerable more than others, and it really so for us to shape a life, what really matters is the choices of what others make. And maybe like starting from my parent, sibling, mentors, friends, and maybe the kind of leaders that I really work with, the volunteers. So I feel all these people choices in my journey has also helped me grow better. So there is a lot of people's choices that has made my happy moments.
And do you think like February 28th, for instance, is celebrated as the Rare Disease Day? Do you think by introducing the Rare Disease Day, we've been able to accomplish something in terms of awareness for rare conditions in general, or do you think there is much more that we can do? And if there is much more, what are your suggestions on that?
I definitely would voice out there is much more we can do. So even if we are making a awareness campaign, be it a marathon, I mostly participate on marathons every year, and so for me, I would say awareness of all these events, right, or all these occasions, also make others who are not in the sector know about something new, right? So there is an impact that we are slowly making it there, and for each campaign what really matters is how you do it or how you convey it matters a lot. So the moment you kind of like do certain things in an impactful way, that where it actually receives a receiver's heart, where they really understand what we're doing. It's not just about running in the morning, coming back with a medal. So there is a beyond things that throughout the year they carry, through generations they carry, and what genetic takes and all these matters, and how they kind of share it with their community people. So these are like some of the things coming even to the workplace, how they kind of bring it to the table. So I would say uh, rare disease awareness, uh, there's a lot of, there are very different methods of campaigning for that, and ultimately each campaign should have a purpose led behind there, and without that, just keeping an event would not be the perfect choice.
Not just as a checkbox in the list of things that organizations need to do. I think one way is how do we amplify the voice of people with and I think it's not just it's about can we create something that can go viral. I think clearly I think mass communication like films have done some amount of a few of them, right? But I think we can do a lot more, and maybe we can think of some campaign that will allow us to sort of say how do you multiply, right, from 1 to maybe 3, 3 to 9, 9 to, and so on. So if we can do something like that, I think maybe we'll do a better awareness campaign if we can build something that touches somebody's heart and is able, people can understand that, because it's not easy for, I think, for a lot of people to understand it just by reading something somewhere. I think they need to also feel it in their heart to be able to say, how do I spread this message across, right? And I think you've been able to do that, I would say, quite effectively, but you can
Not
find
bad.
ways to amplify that voice a little bit. Okay, let's maybe move on to asking you that do you think that did you think that awareness and acceptance play an important role for someone and also the family that lives with a rare condition?
Absolutely, yes. It's very, very important. So, I would say that just coming from my own experience, I would say, like as a child, like until 10 years, I used to just be that kind of person where my parents used to take me. As a child, yes, that's my wisdom also during that time. And but I still feel that more of accept when I really started in the age of 10, when I really started to check myself, like when I really saw my changes in my mind and body, and where it is actually taking me as a person. There is a lot of things that has changed, the kind of confidence that I gained, and the kind of knowledge system that I could bring down to my own condition was lot. Like I would say from the age of 10 to 12, when I really started to take in charge of myself, I really stopped like visiting hospitals, or I kind of like started uh, informing my parents that forget it. I know that I have a lot of deformities, and doing a surgery is a hardship in terms of financial, in terms of risk factor, and especially doctors not really knowing how to deal with a child with OI. And as a parent, even you don't find the strength because you feel, we have this thing, right? Like after surgery, what if the kind of comfort that I have now will go on or go off? What if the surgery doesn't work on a positive note? So all these things, so just leave it as it is and just leave the life it is. So I feel from there I started to be more confident, and I kind of started to deal with my deformities. I know the kind of positions that need to be I need to sit with. I kind of adjust my chair position. So like these are the things that even my parents did not know. Like when I really started to work on myself, I kind of understood that a person with a physical disability like sits for 8 to 12 hours on a wheelchair, and the positioning matters, and the way how you breathe actually makes it everything. So these are like some of my learnings, and I feel that gradually when I really started to come with the community also, I kind of felt like most of the people tend to be more lonely, or maybe they experience a lot of loneliness as self. So I think if they really come in terms of accepting for who they are, they can take in charge of it. And parents plays a huge role. I think it is a hard journey for them, no doubt, because emotionally they are trapped in so many things. It is a hard journey, but I really feel parenting is one of the key aspects for any child to grow, whether persons with or without disability. Parenting plays a huge role. So, and like we all know, like the kind of like counselors that we have right now wasn't there on my times as a child, and this has also like impacted many persons, even in my journey on this group page, where we sometimes, as I said, the child hits with loneliness, or maybe the parent not being understanding where they need to, what to do with the child as they, when they are no more with the independency part. So like a lot of things are being like spread here and there, which has to be joined together. So that happens with open conversations in the family. There's like a lot of stigma involved, and like sex orientation, or a lot of it is still like not being told to a child with disability when they might get the monthly cycle. So these are like still a stigma that has been and been like not being told to everyone, and maybe not exchanged. So I feel as a parent, they have to like nurture the child just like another person without disability, like how you have a boy or a girl as a son, the same child, the same way it has to be nurtured. And open conversation is highly recommended, and it's very important. Like I still have like the peer group people who still goes through a lot of emotional challenges in the teenage and during the times of growing, and so it's very important to have open conversations and acceptance, and really really important, be it for the parent or for the child.
So, other than parents, was it easy for you to make friends outside of your own age group? And is there something we can do to reduce? Because you mentioned there's a lot of loneliness around that, right? Around being at home, homeschooled, and all. Was it hard to make friends when you were younger, or and how do you suggest we don't do, like, how do we change that for other children who might be suffering from the same condition, or any other rare condition?
So for me, I would say that since I'm having a little happier nature in me for a longer time, I didn't hit with a lot of loneliness. Like especially in my childhood, I was actually playing like a child. I was like evolving as a child because I didn't have many friends because I could not go to school. So I have like my neighboring friends only, and I think till they went till the college and all of that, we used to hang out in the evening, and they used to include me part of the gamings in the evening game and playtime and all of that. So in that sense, my growing up wasn't hard, or I did feel lonely as such. No, I have never felt touched, like as of now. I have not felt so lonely.
Yes.
I would really feel that there is, like, as I said, commonly when I look out with the community as such, when I look at the percentage of people, what I really feel is like after those teenage, when they actually grow up and they may not be able to go to the school or college, and the siblings go to school or work, parent do their job, and the child is like stuck there. So that's when we really hit with, and even on the 40s, all of it plays a role. So having a group of friends matters a lot. So for me, personally, my friends are with all age group, I would say. And I am actually a little introvert, I would say. Like, although I'm a very social being, I have a very limited friends who are like very close to me. And I would say, it is in my later age, after my 25, I really had started having friends with my age. Until then, like as I've like been with the family, my friends have always been like uncle, auntie, the neighboring uncle, auntie, or maybe my relatives. So these are like my friends, and yeah, cousins who have been either elder to me or younger to me. But the same age group, it has been very rare until I really came up. Until I'm like my 25 or 26, when I really started to go out and meet people, I never had any friends with same age group. So in that sense, yeah, it has. So that has actually impacted my journey also. Like, I would say that going out for a coffee with friends or something that never used to, like in a larger way. So I'm not like so keen also, because I've grown up with very senior people and all of that. So maybe a little more calm and subtle there because of that. So eventually it has impacted my journey as well.
And that's why you created the group, right? You've created a community yourself now, also, right?
Yeah, now it's quite fun. I do have some bunch of people around me, and we do hang out. And I feel it's about learning each other, and also appreciating of where we are, supporting each other, and just being there. So yeah, it's nice.
So one of my advisors is Sharon Terry, and she is also an amazing woman, and she has created this thing called Genetic Alliance. I don't know if you have seen that, but she has done a really great job of being able to figure out and create communities for different rare conditions. So similar to like the ORDI of India and a few others, I think there are. Hopefully, we can create more of such communities and build that and create like something that common goal around all of them. And I think that will give it a little more wings than where we are today.
It's highly important to have community groups based on the same condition, because we really know what the experiences could be, and we also learn and share a lot. Like when I kind of be part of a group with Osteogenesis Imperfecta, having met around 100 or 200 people with the same condition, we really know where a life would be like, or maybe how certain organs would impact to us, where we need to pay attention. So there's a lot of learning and sharing groups. It's very important to have such communities, and it also supports a family also. As a parent, they would also like learn a lot from other parent, and
Mm.
uh, the emotional support that they kind of share and gain is also like very nice. So community groups always helps each other.
Yeah, I think we need to make a more concerted group and amplify the ones that are already there. Uh,
Yeah.
so we have we mentioned that when you were younger or it was hard to get genetic testing, but how important do you think genetic testing is, especially to understand rare conditions and also otherwise? But I think in the context of rare conditions, how important do you think that you know and why should parents even think about doing that?
So genetic condition should actually, I would say, it should just be like a normal test how we got used with, how we we kind of do the blood test, right, for diabetics or for anything. It should reach to that common level, I would say, because people carry so much of stigma within them that finding something will actually ruin the people's life. That's what the people, parents, or the family really think, like if my daughter really comes across some positive results, her whole life is gone, whether she'll get married or whether she can study. So that's how the parent think. But ultimately, doing a genetic test is all about understanding a better health of yourself, I would say. Coming from diabetics, we can understand, and a lot of it can be understood through a genetic test. So I would say that any person after 18 years or maybe before that, it is really important to do a genetic test to avoid even acute disabilities, and also, like, planning for a family life and all the family planning. So it really gives a lot of sense in what you're going to do, and a lot of the the kind of hardships that each of us, maybe the parent or the child, going to face can largely be avoided. And doing a genetic test is not about destroying a soul or anything of that sort. It's about giving early attention, interventions, and a better treatment to the child and the mother and the father as well. So it's very important to do that.
Correct.
So I think the stigma has to be removed. So it's a responsibility that each one of us take up, because government policies are way far off to reach to anything for us. And it's fine that we all, each person, take an authority on that.
No, absolutely, I agree, because there are some things that we can avoid at the before people decide to get married level. There's some things you can do at the prenatal level, and there's some things you can do at an early intervention level, right? And it's not that just because we find out it goes away, right? I mean, that is still there. So I think, in fact, if you find out, there are chances that you can either prevent it or you can do an early diagnosis of it. And early diagnosis means early treatment, means better outcome of life. And that's something I think, it has to be told to people in many ways, because people don't seem to, people think that, just by finding out, it's like putting your head in the sand and hoping that that problem, that won't happen to them, right? And I think, unfortunately, it is not as rare as people consider some of these conditions to be. And therefore, given the changes in technology, I think, why not avail them, right? But I think many people don't even know that such things are available even today. I think we need to change that. Do you think that this will make our whole conversation that we've had so far about disability rights, the inclusion, your access, if I mean, currently, I think one big challenge in genetic testing is, of course, that cost was a challenge, right? So people were one, what we mentioned, which was that, do people want to do it, or do they, if you get a positive result, it might mean some sort of a social stigma. The second challenge is that it costs more than what people thought it would, but that cost is coming down. Do you think there are other things that people fear about, or are just not aware, or do you think that we will be able to get to a point where either insurance pays for it, or an employer pays for it, or somebody pays for it, so that everybody has equal access to tests like that?
Yes, it does. It's actually a teamwork, I would say, from the government level to the private hospitals. And like, as you said, doing a genetic test was actually been not heard with many people is because of the cost, one. Two, it has not become a mandatory. So if a person now, how do we have like polio drops in India? And so similarly, a mandatory policy should come on board, where each person should mandatory go for annual checkups, and genetic test at whatever age it has to be appropriately done for a woman and a man, or a girl and boy, and those of it. So if, on a very from a doctorate level, on a healthcare perspective, if that can be come out, I think yes, there will be a huge impact in terms of everywhere, because firstly, when a person with rare disease is born, most of the conditions are incurable. And despite if some has a medicine, the charges involved is like 4x for that. And maybe even selling their own property would not be enough for a child's treatment. The entire family, like I still know many families who have like sold their own property and have taken money from family, friends, and all of it, and still not reached anywhere. And so there is a great challenge that's happening because of that. So even healthcare policies has to be more and accessible, or maybe they come in terms of making uh, medical insurance for rare diseases, at least to some percentage. So all these would be a support system for a person with rare diseases to grow on a very healthier side, rather than struggling here and there or in between. So it really matters. Like not very a small percentage of families are kind of funded, well rich enough to actually take care of the child, and on a larger way they are unable to give proper treatment and education even now. Like I really know that when I came to the community level with similar conditions or another rare diseases, as a community, we learned a lot. But if the community does not exist, still there will be a lot of people who still stay in the unknown and be there. And still now people really doesn't know the what RPWD Act and is there any policies and lot of that. So I think the access on digital level and should just be, so these are like the essential part for everyone, I would say. And these information should go to each houses from on a very easy level, not just by I need to Google and find out. No, it should actually go as an information system to every home, I would say. So this again, yes, it can be a ownership that as some communities come together and do it, or from the government level. So it's actually a team of people involved who can make such big impacts. I, as a person alone, will not be, but as a team, yes, we all can.
Yeah, like they say, it takes a village, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess one is that we can if we look at policies, whether it is genetic non-discrimination act, which is there in the US, Canada. I mean, in some of the countries, it is these kind of acts are there. Then you're looking at things where you start looking at doing this on a newborn screening as well, right? I mean, some of the rare diseases can be early treatment can be done. UK is an example of that. So, and I think now India also, some states are doing that. Not every state, but some of them are doing it. So I think one is that if people start to understand the value of this in a collective way, and I think one thing that you mentioned, which was quite interesting, was you said even if people are not in the community, they're still suffering from these diseases. And it's not just about the community, the emotional support, but you also want to prevent this in the future for some of the other people. And I think even when you're looking at will a kind of pharmaceutical company work towards a cure or otherwise, I think for that also there needs to be a community for it to look like something that people can address a problem, because you need to do research and so on. So there are multiple such areas that we can all understand, that it is one about immediate changes in terms of what you can do. Two is policies that we can bring about, but three is also, can we improve the diagnostic odyssey, as they call it, by being able to create communities, by being able to create the right sort of support system for all of us. I know we've gotten quite deep into discussions of all of this, and we are already at almost an hour. So I want to ask you, what would your advice be for new parents who've had like a baby with a disability or a rare condition that they've just found out?
Firstly, yes, timely care, early interventions, and please don't like think this is the end of the world or start treating it special. No, the child is like as just like the parent, as This is a human, and ultimately it's another individual. So it's very important to nurture the child just like how you have been nurtured by your parents, or maybe you as a parent, like as a parent, I want to be like this to my child. So just be that. Like, let's not give any special tags to it, but and also like it's very important. Like I really feel, uh, uh, I've seen a percentage of special parents not being able to enjoy their life because they completely give the full attention to the child, and somewhere the person's journey is also like shattered. So it's very important to find a balance between themselves and the child, and the bond between a parent and child. So like these are the two things that I really feel as a priority to be paid attention, and the rest of it would just come off like firstly, like child has to be responsible. Just leave the child the way out. Another person with disability has to grow as their own child. Just let's not put any special tag to it.
Absolutely. Um, so, so how did you get started with this whole? I know that you write a lot. You know, both in terms of poetry and prose and many, and you're currently a content marketer. So, where did you discover that talent of yours, and how did you know, tell us a little bit about your love for all things written and spoken, if I can say that.
I would say I'm a trained writer. I'm not like a born writer, no. I am a trained writer. So if you're able to read my prose or anything, you understand that it just comes from my heart. That's it. And, it doesn't,
You are a writer. Then you are a good writer.
it might not have any proper grammatical
That's
lines or anything of that. It comes from my heart and all of that. And for me, writing is something that I love to do, and I'm just doing that. And it started at like at the age of 15 to 18 that I really have this interest of writing. Now, when I say writing, where it actually got me interest is me tapping on the keyboards of laptop. So from there is like I started to realize like, hey, I'm able to convey something what I really want to, and so that's how it just started up. And not poet or anything. I just scribble upon what based on my mood and what really need to be felt or shared, and I just do that.
I think that's the best kind. Maybe if you can, maybe read out a few lines from any poem or something that you've written.
Maybe not a poem, so I would say that is it okay like if I recite
Anything that you like,
prose or something?
whatever you like. Yeah,
I don't want a real poet to come across and say, "Hey, this is called poem, so let me not be there." So I'll just recite a prose or something like that. So
anything.
during Wishbone Day, so some of the years on one of the Wishbone Day, happened to write one of the prose. So just reading it that maybe I would just give a try reading that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, sure. So it's called the recital piece, and it goes like this. The universe took 9 months to craft me. It wasn't enough for my bones to be crafted to perfection. I grew up with broken bones and cracked teeth, with sorrowful doubts all through the nights, and hardly any goals to chase during the day. I believe my journey is not about crossing miles across the planet, but about learning the path that would take me to the mirror, the reflections of face I could identify even before my birth. Each time my journey was to the rock bottom where mind knows no answers. I found a mysterious force that evoked the strength in me to hold myself through the challenges thrown at me. The late evenings that I spent on my rolling chair with music plugged in my ears have taken me many times to that place, which was my home even before I appeared as a star in the dark sky. Thank you.
Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. And it sounds like poetry to me. I don't know if it is if it is prose, but I think that's for each one to decide. But it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that. So I have a few questions which are what I call as the rapid fire question.
Okay.
Okay. So which is your favorite travel destination?
Beach.
Which nice. Any favorite personality that inspires you?
Myself.
Absolutely. Me too. Okay. What are your hobbies?
Watching movies.
Okay. You're a morning person, night person?
Morning.
Okay. Favorite singer?
Any good singer. Anyone I love classic music, so anyone who's into classical, yeah.
It's great. Yesterday, I think on Sunday, I just heard Pandit Rakesh Chaurasia and Zakir Hussain. And that Ustad Zakir Hussain, it was amazing. So,
Yeah.
any book that you've read that has made a recent, something that you can tell us about?
I would say my all-time favorites are these two books. One is When the Breath Becomes Air.
Yes.
Another one is
All.
Life is What You Make It by Preeti Shenoy.
That's great, great. And I think with that, with those two great references to the book and to this thing, I think, if there's anything you would like to tell our audience, otherwise we will close it at this.
Just enjoy your life and love yourself first more than anything. Keep spreading a lot of light and joy.
Thank you so much. And you've been the one who's been spreading a lot of joy and awareness along with that. So thank you so much, Dhanya. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be part of such a great platform where the very strong people came and spoke, and the whole of the career, that they have shared. It's very nice, and I feel so honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhanya.